Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is June Lundgren. Before I bring her on, just a couple of announcements. First, you can always get new episodes free on Rokfin, Odysee, and all podcast platforms. Click the link in the description and check us out on Rokfin. This is where you get all of our premium content. You get all of our shows first here. And best of all, you get all the amazing content from every awesome creator that is there on Rokfin. Check out the awesome new podcast by the Forbidden Knowledge Network. You can get them all in one place. That's our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. We've got some new awesome podcasts added this month. Go check it out. You won't be disappointed. Finally, I got to tell you about C60 Purple Power. It may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man, made from some of the purest and most rare materials found on Earth. And so many of you have told me your stories about how you have taken back your own health with C60. You can get C60 for your pets. Your pets can feel great too. Click the link in the description. You get 10% off your order plus free shipping. Today I want to welcome back to the show June Lundgren. She is a psychic medium, animal communicator, healer, nurse, demon seer, international paranormal investigator, and author with over 40 years of experience in the paranormal field. As a child, she communicated with spirits, animals, and angels. She served in the military, where she trained as a nurse and EMT. After returning from the military, she continued to work in the medical field as a nurse and is currently the founding member of GhostsandGirlsParanormal.com. June, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Got a day off. It's raining. It's Oregon. What can you expect?
Oh, awesome. Well, it's great to have a day off. And the cold hit over here in Denver today, so we had to turn on all our heaters this morning. So nice and toasty now. But I've been looking forward to today. Welcome back. We're going to have a good time. I thought today we could discuss a little bit, not only about demons and shadow people and earthbound spirits, but how to recognize the difference and what are the differences and what kind of traits do these entities have, such as weaknesses, do they have any fears, and how do they appear to people? Do they have any other abilities? And of course, how to get rid of these entities if they happen to be attached to people. It's been a while since you've been on. I'd love it if you could remind the audience how and when you kind of discovered and came into your abilities.
Well, even as a child, little child, my grandmother knew I had abilities, and she raised me for the first 5-6 years of my life, and she knew that I was seeing things that were beyond her scope as well. But I was an animal communicator because the animals have always been there. I've always talked to them. I can hear their thoughts like I'm talking to a person out loud. And I've always been able to see negatives, but until I was about 4.5, 5 years old, it was a case of I was seeing them as most humans see them. I was seeing, a black mass, a black blob, that sort of thing. But around 4.5, 5 years old, it changed. I began to see them in their true form. And at first I was scared, and Michael, the archangel, he's been with me since birth, and he said, don't be afraid. He says, this is how we see them. You're seeing them through angelic eyes. And I was like, okay. He says, I won't let them harm you. He said, I won't let them even see you. He said, I will keep you cloaked so that they cannot interfere with you. But what I want you to do is I want you to watch them. I want you to learn how they work, what they do, that sort of thing, because you're going to need it when you're older. And, you're 5 years old and you're like, oh, okay. He says I should look and watch. I look and watch. So clear up until the time when I went into the military. I was 2 years in the Army and 3 in the Air Force. And I was about 20 years old when I had my first real interaction with a demon to where I faced it head on. And we had a young man that had not shown up for work in the Air Force, and his commander called. I was working ER as a ER nurse. And we went over to his barracks. He wanted The commander wanted to open the door because he was afraid of what he'd find, whether the man was dead or not. So he opened the door, and the man was huddled in a corner, just rolled up into a ball. And to the left of him, I saw a demon standing up there waiting for him to die, basically was what he was doing. And I ignored the demon and went, and we got the man out of there, and we got him back into the emergency room. I went out to get the stuff to start an IV on him. And when I came back in the triage room, the demon was standing over him trying to pull his life force out of him. And I looked at it and I said, not on my watch. This one belongs to me, not you. And whatever it was that he saw in my face, he left and he didn't come back. And I checked on the young man a couple times after that. And when he gained consciousness and he was being sent home, what we found out what had happened was someone had put angel dust in his soda. He's a chaplain's assistant.
Wow.
So, that he wouldn't hurt a fly even if he could. So, of course, that made me mad. He said, I had the weirdest dream. He said, I had a dream that a demon was trying to take my soul, and an angel came and stopped him. And I said, well, that's a good thing. That maybe God's trying to tell you something, that you're meant for higher things. And that was the first interaction I had with them before I knew what was within me. In 1988, I was riding my motorcycle over to visit my now husband, and a woman ran a red light and hit me on my bike. And so I was clinically dead for 2 minutes. When I went to the other side, my grandparents were there and Michael was there. And he said, you're here because you need to understand who and what you are. He said, you are Ariel the Archangel. You were sent to live physical world lives until you learn to have compassion for mankind. He said, in 1198 AD, you ripped the demon out of a woman and the woman died. And you had no care for that. He said, that's when God said, you have to learn compassion. So we're going to send you back to relive human lives until you learn compassion. Now, this is life number 131. And I think it's taken her this long to learn compassion, but she seems to have learned it now.
Wow, that's interesting. Very fascinating. Now, I want to go over what you would define and what you would call a demon, because I've had, plenty of different definitions come passing through this show.
Oh, yeah. Webster's dictionary defines a demon as, this is somewhat a being that's thought to be a tormentor of humans, an evil entity. Well, that can cover a lot of ground there, but I define a demon as an inhuman, something that is unable to take human form, something that is negative in the extreme, that is hell-bent on causing destruction to mankind, as well as animals. I mean, any sentient being that has the light within them.
Now, when it comes to beings that are non-corporeal entities that we can't see, would you say that there is a spectrum or hierarchy of beings that exist, from light to dark, all the way from the, upper realms to lower realms?
Oh, yeah. There's a hierarchy in the darkness, and there's a hierarchy in the light. In the light, it's God, Jesus, the archangels, and the warrior angels, and then the common souls. And in the darkness, there's Lucifer. He has a second and third in command. And then there are the old demons. They're the strongest and the most intelligent and the craftiest of all the demons. And they've been around for a long, long time. And then you have the lesser demons, who are the younger ones. Like I've said before, they remind me of, hormonal teenagers on steroids. They're out there causing as much chaos as they possibly can, and they're the ones you're going to find mostly in the physical world. They're the ones who are here to have fun and games. And then you have the minions, which include, the creepy crawly dudes, the ones that can crawl up on the walls and the ceilings and look like anything. And then there's the shadow people. And then there are the wild cards, what I call the wild cards, the incubus, succubus, and the harpies. These ones are kind of unpredictable, and they're not as prevalent as the others. And then there are the watchers. The watchers are neither good nor bad. They literally watch, learn. But in the dark realm, Lucifer does have respect for Jesus, God, the archangels, but that's it. And before the war between heaven and hell, when it was just the light, God knew that Lucifer would be causing a problem. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. So he created a group of elite warriors called the Legion of Light. This was comprised of Ariel, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Zebulun. And this legion were the ones who trained the warriors, and they in turn trained other warriors. And because they knew that it would be a fight between, all it took was for Lucifer to try something. So what happened was, what caused the war between heaven and hell was, we had physical bodies long, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then we evolved into pure energy. And we traveled, all the galaxies. We saw stars being born, planets being born, different races coming into being. And we studied all this. We traveled forever as a group. And then a portion of the soul said, listen, we're tired of this. We've learned all we can. We've seen everything that we can. We would like to be physical again. We would like to have children. We would like to know physical love. This is what we want. And there was about a third of the group that said, no way, this is not what we want. We do not want to be subject to pain, growing old, disease, none of that. We'd be confined to a shell. We couldn't travel. We couldn't go where we wanted to go. And that was led by Lucifer. So that's what started the war. And when it was over, Lucifer was disarmed by Michael, and Ariel disarmed his son. And God said, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. He says, you're never going to be able to take physical form, but you can't live among us. So he opened a rift into a dark realm, and he put him in there and sealed the realm with a couple of archangels to guard the entrance. Well, at first they were good with it. They were happy. Yeah, no problem. So, but then over time, they've grown angry. They've grown resentful. They've grown vengeful. So they seek to get into our world to make the people suffer that have white light souls in them. Everyone who lives, whether it's an animal or a human, has a white light soul. So Lucifer does have respect for the Legion of Light. And I have a friend there are 8 archangels in the world today. I have one of them within me. And then I have a friend in Scotland who has Hanel. And Hanel, the archangel, and Lucifer were great friends before the war. And he bears him no malice for choosing a different side from him. So he goes from time to time to visit Hanel. And my friend Andy, who has Hanel within him, says, Elle was here again visiting. We watched a movie or something. It was just, because Lucifer is bizarre. So I said,
yeah, just watching a movie with Lucifer. All right.
I know. I said, next time he drops by, ask him what he thinks about Ariel. And so right. Lucifer came by a couple of weeks later, and Andy asked him, what do you think about Ariel? And he said, his response was, respect the assassin. Because she was also a member of the Assassins. There was another elite warrior angel group, which still exists, called the Assassins. And so Lucifer knows she can take him out. That's not a problem. It's all about that, having that respect.
Wow. Now, this, a lot of this information that you just told me, this was all, I'm sure, relayed to you from angels themselves, right?
Right, yeah. When I was on the other side, when I died and went to the other side, all of this was revealed. And I saw it all happen as if I was there, which she was, Ariel was there. But once I found out what resided within me, I thought, I don't even know who Ariel is. I've never heard of her. I've never, never. Michael's like, look online, look her up, see what you think, see what you can find. There isn't much on her. Her name means Lion of God, and she's one of the 5 that guard the throne of God. And she is an archangel, a warrior angel. She's a demon slayer. So he says, what I want to do for you, he says, is I want to merge your physical consciousness with her soul consciousness so that you see what she sees, hear what she hears, feel what she feels, and vice versa. So he did that for me. So I look through her eyes. I know when there's a demon around. I know the minute I connect with the individual who has a problem, I know the demon's name. I know how it found them. I know what it wants. And it should be very afraid. Because when Ariel comes forward, they want to be anywhere else but there.
Wow. Well, I want to talk about how people might be able to tell if they have some sort of negative spiritual attachment. What would be some of the, most obvious signs?
Okay, they have a certain progression. They have a certain MO how they work.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a ghost that you encounter, you're going to have external coldness. You're going to have cold spots, that you feel outside with your body. You can raise the hairs on the back of your neck, that sort of thing. With demons, you feel cold on the inside. It's like it could be 100 degrees outside, and your internal temperature feels like you're freezing from the inside out. Then you get a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. The air feels heavy. It feels like you could cut it with a knife. You may hear growling. You may get scratched depending upon the degree to which they are trying to attach themselves. You get scratched, you can get bitten, you get pushed, shoved. They can actually reach in and grab your heart and stop it if they so choose to. But I've seen it happen. That's why I know. And you can then they'll work their way up to, they'll try to alienate you from your support system, with your husband, wife, whatever, parents. They'll try to alienate you. You start having health problems. Your finances go in the toilet. It's like you go spiraling downwards without any cause for it. People don't understand it. They feel like a black cloud is hanging over them or they're being jinxed or something. But in actuality, it is the demon.
Now, how would you personally assess if a person might have, some sort of mental illness rather than an attachment?
Yeah, that's the trick right there, is to be able to tell. The big difference between me and someone else is I don't have to do a psychological eval on them, because I see, if there's a demon there, I see it. If there's not, I've run into it a few times. I'll tell them, you know what, you're good. There's nothing negative there. The activity you're experiencing is your guides and guardians trying to help you. Things like that. I don't tell them, oh, you're crazy, so you really need to get some shrink help.
Yeah.
You don't do that. But you do assess it. That's where my gift comes in handy, because a lot of times the mental illness will attract a demon because it makes you vulnerable. And they see that and they're like, oh, well, this person already has some psychological issues. So we're going to amplify that. We're going to magnify it. And they've done that too. But once the demon is removed, their psychological issues return to normal, what's normal for them. But the demon amplifies it like 100-fold. It'd be like somebody on speed or something like that. It's like untapped. It's just like unbelievable. But it's difficult. If you have a paranormal group and you're going to try to assess, that's one good thing, is to have someone on your group or know someone who does the psychological evaluations and things like that. There would be, if you're, that's the big problem. If you don't have what I have, which, inside of me, then it makes it really difficult. You can give a psychological eval and see how that turns out, but it could be a combination of the demons amplifying the psychological problems that the person had in the first place, or the abuse issues, because they love people that have, uh, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, violent, abusive ways, that sort of thing, or have someone that has been is living in or has been raised in an abusive situation. These things attract them.
I see. That makes sense.
That
Do you
makes
think?
them vulnerable.
Do you think that there has been a portion of misdiagnosis amongst the medical community when it comes to people like with schizophrenia or other mental illnesses, where it may actually be something supernatural, like a spiritual attachment?
Yeah, I think on a percentage basis, the amount of people with negative entities attached to them, say out of 100, would be
Mhm.
about 50%.
Wow.
And so it's a hard, if you don't know what you're doing, if you can't sense them, then it makes it very difficult to tell, because the first thing people think of is give them a pill, get them into some therapy, give them a pill, that sort of thing. And they don't understand it. If there's a demon involved, it won't get better. it'll
Right.
it'll get worse.
Yeah, because
All
they
the
would
medicines
probably
in the
feed off of the negativity or the way that pill is affecting your body, right?
right. Yeah, it makes you vulnerable. It like puts you down for the count.
Yeah.
And that makes you easier to control, easier to influence.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was talking to somebody yesterday, that has had, paranormal experiences their whole life, and they were diagnosed as, schizophrenic from a young age, but it turns out that they were really, having these experiences, and they still have these experiences, and it just makes me wonder how many people, in reality are being misdiagnosed and being put on medication and making this stuff worse for them, actually.
Yeah, or suppressing their abilities.
Yeah,
Some
suppressing that. Yeah.
will suppress the abilities, and if the abilities become suppressed, it can come out in other ways. It can come out in physical releases like headaches, back aches, muscle aches, neck aches, anything like that, where you're keeping it bottled up, so it's got to come out somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the problem. You have to walk a fine line, and you have to be able to know what's going on with the individual. I think personally that they should have a whole another category for psychological eval for people with abilities. But that doesn't flow with mainstream medicine.
Of
Believe me,
course.
I know. I've been in medicine for 46 years. It doesn't. They don't want to hear that.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we won't get into what science and medicine is becoming lately, but yeah, that's a whole different
No.
podcast. Now,
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on some of the myths that you may hear about what could protect you from negative
Oh,
entities, and
God.
then we'll go into some of the things that what actually can protect you.
Yeah, I just gave a lecture in La Cruces, New Mexico, about that sort of thing, and
Hmm.
some of the things are bizarre to me because I've been dealing with them all my life, and you get people that find you after like 20 years, or I had this one guy that he had been he'd been attacked by these demons for 6 years, and he happened to be on some sort of website looking for more help because nobody had been able to help him. And then he says it was weird. He said, "Your name just popped up out of nowhere." I said, "No, it's not weird." So somebody's giving you a heads up. You need to contact me.
Yeah.
So he says some of the things I tell people is like, okay, walk in a circle backwards 3 times, and that'll keep them away from you. Sleep with tobacco under your pillow. That's gonna keep them away. Send them love and light, and that will make them go away. I wish. No, not really. Put brake dust over the entryway to your home, and that will keep out the negatives. I'm like, really? Let me go get some off my car and try that. It's like, nah, that doesn't work. Crystals do not help. Crystals only amplify the energy that's put into them. You put in bad energy, you're going to get it amplified. You put in good, you get it amplified. Tar water, the Santeria, voodoo, they believe in using tar water for protection. It's a carcinogen, and the only person that's going to help is it's going to kill the person making it, and the person using it's not so good for either.
Yeah.
But there are all kinds of different things. It's like, keeping your thoughts positive is going to keep them away from you. Yelling at them is going to keep them away from you. Playing sermons is going to keep them away from you. It may ward them off for a moment or two, but it's not going to get rid of them. It's not going to make them go away for good. None of that, because it's like they just laugh. And you sage. Oh my God. People tell me, well, I think I had something negative in my house, and I saged, and it just got worse. And I'm like, yeah. I said, you're saging. That means there's something there, and the demons are pissed because you're trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
They know you're trying to get rid of them, so the activity ramps up 100-fold, and it makes them attack you. If they weren't attacking you before physically, it's on. They just want your blood after that.
Wow.
Those are the things that will not help you in no manner, shape, or form. So don't even think that they will.
Right. Yeah. Well, is there any preventative things or things that can help you if you do believe that you have an attachment of some sort?
If the attachment's already happened, there's not much that's going to help you, because once it makes up its mind to attach itself to you, it's like it's wrapping its arms around you. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to peel it off. You're not going to get rid of it. You'd have to go find someone who's a deliverance minister or a priest that can do an exorcism or a clearing, or a demonologist who's actually a demonologist, who actually knows how to handle demons. Amazingly enough, there are a few of those around, or someone like me. And that stems back to the reason I don't call myself a demonologist, because I've met too many fake ones. Give me money and I'll make it go away, and I don't make it go away. I don't believe in that stuff. So my grandmother was from Ireland. She said, call yourself what we call you in the old country, a demon seer. You can see them, hear them, understand them, communicate with them, and remove them. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me than a demonologist. I've run into some really bad ones.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But the thing is, it's, you need help. I mean, if you think you've got one or you've run into one and it's not attached, but you've, like, say you're going on a paranormal investigation, and this is a location that's been known to have, demons or shadow people hanging around. So what you want to do is you can wear like a crucifix, as long as it has the image of Jesus on it. Or if you're Jewish, the Star of David, have it blessed and wear it. That will protect you. Carrying holy water and keeping it on your person can help protect you. Anointing oil that's blessed can help. I create black salt, and it's not any black salt. This is a special one that God gave me the recipe for 40 some years ago when I started helping people. And he blesses it at each step of the making of it. And it's not like any other you'll ever find. And it hasn't failed in 46 years. But I sell cremation necklaces, which are beautiful. They have the black salt in them. And when you wear it and it's protecting, it heats up. The metal on the necklace gets almost too hot to wear. That's how you know that it's working, that it's protecting you, that there's something negative. I have a sister group I formed in the UK, and they use theirs all the time when they go on locations. And the black salt will help. Prayers invoking the name of Jesus or whichever deity you believe in, which you have absolute faith in. You can't just say it just to be saying it, to give it lip service. You have to have that absolute faith in that entity, that deity, God, Jesus, Jehovah, Shiva, whatever. You have to have absolute faith in it. And those are the things that will protect you. I wish I could say that there was more, but it all is about your faith in that object, your faith in that deity, that's going to protect you the most. When I died and went to the other side, I found out that in both realms, light and dark, thought becomes reality. And it is the intention behind the thought that gives it the power to do good or do evil. It's very important. And
Yeah.
if one of the things you learn is you have to have absolute faith in yourself, absolute faith in what you're doing, and the fact that you can do it, and the faith in God. You have to have that, or you'll never get rid of a demon. You cannot have any weakness. It will reach inside your head and it will pull out your weaknesses and it'll use them against you. I have empathic abilities. I shut them down because I can't do that and do the removal and deal with the demon, because I would be picking up on the persons that's being attacked. I'd be picking up on their emotions, and that would make me weak. So I shut that down. I know what they're feeling. I just don't wish to feel it. Because if I do, they see it as a weakness and they will attack the people. They won't attack me, they'll attack the people again. And I
Right.
can't have that.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I've heard, just so many times the calling the name of a deity that you have ultimate faith in has made entities, flee immediately. I've had a very good friend that had a recent experience with this, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, they will flee, but they'll be back. They won't give up. They won't give up. They just
Yeah.
leave for a little while until the coast is clear and then they come back. See, that's the problem. People think, well, I got rid of it. It's gone. It's not here no more. They give you that false sense of security. Like, oh, it can be like quiet and peaceful for weeks, months on end, and then suddenly it'll pick back up again. They lull you into a false sense of security and you will let your guard down and they'll come right back again. They have all the time in the world. There have no sense of time on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they'll just come back for you later. No
Now,
problem.
I want to go back to shadow people. You mentioned it a few minutes ago, and how they relate to sleep paralysis, if at all. I want to get your thoughts on that because I used to have sleep paralysis. This was years ago, and it was in a bad time in my life. I was going through a bad divorce and situation and everything like that, and I would get sleep paralysis, and out of the corner of my eye, I could swear I see shadow people. I'm paralyzed halfway between awake and asleep, and then all of a sudden hear this loud banging noise, and out of the corner of my eye, I see shadow people moving around, and then or creeping up closer to me, and I'm struggling to get up, and eventually I get up, but after a couple of years of that, it just stopped. After I got myself into a better situation, especially. So I want to get your thoughts. Is this just like some kind of sleep paralysis mental disorder, or is this a real supernatural occurrence?
No, they can cause that. Shadow people are kind of different in the way that they're loners, whereas demons travel in packs.
Mm-hmm.
They'll always be like a lesser demon and the little creepy crawly dudes to do their pimping for them to find the victims.
Right.
But the shadow people, they like their own territory. It's very rare that you'll find more than one in a location because they just don't tolerate it at all. It's like, this is my territory. Get the hell out. You do not belong here. I claim this.
Right.
First thing they do is they wait and they watch. And then they start depriving you of sleep. They start giving you nightmares, and they watch all of this happen. And as you're losing sleep, as you're having the nightmares, they start draining your life force out of you slowly but surely. If they can, they will continue to do that until you're so weak. Some people even take their lives. But um, but sometimes they'll just like, oh, okay, well, this person really isn't that interesting. It's not having the effect I thought it would, so I'm going to move on. Or they're through messing with you, so they just move on to somebody else. They get
Yeah.
bored with you. They do that. They'll get bored with people and move on. But
Interesting.
usually they like a place where they're going to get a lot of, like, the Gold Hill Hotel. you know, where I've been there. It's like they like it there because there's not that many people that go in there, and it's abandoned, and they still have the souls that are still left there, that are the human souls that are caught there, and they still continue to torture them. That's a big problem for them as well. They can get a hold of a soul that's left there that's having problems, and they'll just basically hold them there and not let them cross and torture them. They can utilize them. Demons do it as well. Demons utilize human spirits to get into places where they can't make it. If you have a location, like I've had it happen where I have removed demons from someone in their home and everything, and they've sealed it with the black salt, but the demons can't get in there anymore. So what they'll do is they'll take a human soul and they'll utilize that human soul. They're like a slave to them, and they'll make them go in there and give the person, nightmares or attack the person, that sort of thing. And of course, the first thing people think of, especially when they've already had demons removed, is the demons are back. When in actuality, the demons are not back, but they are utilizing these human souls to do that. It's just as a human soul can look like a shadow person. They project into your mind what they wish you to see. That's like demons. They look into your mind, pull out the image that you have of what they should look like, and they magnify that times 10 or 100, so as they can elicit as much fear as possible to feed off of. And the human souls, there was a children's theater, and the woman called me in because there was this 7-foot shadow man, that was terrorizing the kids and stuff when they came in. And so I went down there, and I'm like, really? Because I see them as they truly are. So for an instant, I saw him as a 7-foot shadow man, and then it was gone in a split second, and I saw him for what he was: a short, fat, balding guy who never got any respect in life, and he was darn sure going to get respect in death. So he's projecting himself as a shadow person.
So a lot of these shadow peoples could be just incarnate spirits that have had a lousy life.
Right.
Wow.
They're going to make them see them that way.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you have to learn to tell the difference. The shadow people have red eyes, though. Whereas the humans that look like shadow people, they don't have the red eyes. They just look black-eyed. So it's like, okay, that's the difference.
So the real shadow people probably were never human, you would say?
No, never human, never physical form.
Very interesting. What about infestation possession? Is it possible for one person to be possessed or attached by multiple entities?
Oh, yeah. I was, that's about 5 years ago. I did a radio show called Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. He did a special on me called Demon Seer, and I got like over 200 requests for help in the first week.
Oh, wow.
It was ridiculous. But one of the people that came across was a woman who said she was possessed. I'm like, okay, because there's crazy people out there, I'm like, send me a picture. Yeah. So she sent me a picture. I'm like, yep, that's the real thing. Alrighty. And I knew at that time that she had 11 entities within her. So I'm like, okay. So I have a friend who's an ordained minister, and then another friend of mine. She's in the group that I started called Ghosts and Girls Paranormal. And I told her, I said, do you want to go along? I said, this is something that you've never been in on. This is something you make sure you're well protected. And then my friend who's the minister, Aaron, I said, God told me you need to come. I said, because you fear the dark ones, and you cannot serve him and fear the dark ones. So you need to come. So we all made the appointment. We went, and I knocked on the door, and the woman opened the door, and her eyes were black, and she told me in Aramaic. The demon came forward in Aramaic, bitch, get out.
Oh, wow.
and slammed the door, and my friends are like, what just happened? I'm like, hey, no worries. Let's just knock on the door again. Knocked on the door again, and she opened it. That she was in control at that time. I think probably because the demon figured, he was going to scare me off, because demons are kind of stupid in the way that they don't look deeper than the surface on a human. So they don't look to see what's underneath. Too bad for them. Not a problem for me. So we get in there, and I told her, I said, we're going to start right away. We're going to start removing these things right away. And then when Ariel comes forward, she comes forward. There's people say that there are wings coming out of my shoulders. My eyes turn white. My voice and my face changes. So there are physical manifestations when she comes forward. So she was out for almost 3 hours with doing the removals. We were down to the last one. And I told it, I said, I know why you fear to come out. I said, you're hiding. I said, you were given a job to do for Lucifer, and you just didn't do it. You blew him off. And so now he's looking for your ass. I said, you know what? If you want to go home, I can ask Jesus if he'll take you home. And the demon's like, really? I said, yes, you can go home if you truly want to go home. And so I said, Jesus, come forth. And my friends are standing in front of me, and they part as this huge hand and arm comes forward, made out of, it was totally white light. And I heard Jesus say, come with me, you can come home. And the demon's like, no, you're lying. And so Jesus withdrew. I told the demon, I said, so be it. Lucifer, come forth. And my friends are like looking, their eyes are getting as big as dollars. And they're like, here comes this being appear at the end of the hallway and start walking towards us. And for them, they saw it as a black entity with wearing a fedora, double-breasted suit, spats, that type of thing. Just coming and gold eyes coming down the hallway towards them. And it got to me and the woman, and he looked at the woman and he said, demon, come forth. And he said its name. And the demon's like, no, I'm not coming. You can't make me get out. You come out of her. And Lucifer looked at me and said, I know you don't want me to kill the woman, so I'll be back for it later. So he turned around, walked down the hall, and disappeared. And I told her, I said, they're all gone but one. I said, and he'll be back for it later tonight. And we all went home, 3 a.m. We all woke up in our respective beds and heard it's done. So the next morning I called her, and she says it's been over 20 years since she's felt free like this. She's just, I said, get counseling. I said, you have PTSD from dealing with these entities for 11 years, for God's sakes, get help. So she did. She's probably still in counseling to this day, because that's not something you're going to get over in a matter of weeks, months.
That's amazing. I mean, you would never hear, I wouldn't think, an exorcism story where a priest calls forth Lucifer to help him out to finish the exorcism.
Hey, I'm not traditional.
Right. That's great.
You got to fight fire with fire. I mean, if he's afraid of Lucifer and Lucifer's looking for him, why not?
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Now, have you ever had any experiences where a person maybe could have been close to death or would have died if there hadn't been an intervention?
Probably I think the closest one I've got to that was the young man in the military he was like breath away from dying. And he was the closest one. There have been others that have, been to the point where they're about ready to commit suicide. I had a young man who came back from Iraq, and he was a sniper there. That was his job. Mm-hmm. And he was doing flipping houses to make a living. And I got a call from somebody who knew him and said, he's really having a problem. I said, well, send me pictures. So he sent me pictures, and there are like three marks scratches going all the way down his back. There were bite wounds on his legs and on his torso. And these things were attacking him as he was sleeping. And so he lives up in Washington. So I went up there, and the minute I landed at the house, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Somebody worships Satan in this house. Wow. There's a pentagram in here somewhere. So I get in there, and I told him, I said, I need to go where I need to go. I said, just let me walk through the house. So I went to the back room, farthest back room, and I said, "There's a pentagram here somewhere." He says, "There was." He says, "I painted over it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Painting over it's not going to cut it. It's not going to get rid of it. It's not going to deactivate the portal that was opened."
Mm.
I said, "This is a nasty demon." I said, "But you know what? This demon did not come from here. You brought it back with you from Iraq. Their soothsayers over there are calling forth demons to put on, quote unquote, the enemy.
Oh,
The American snipers, the British ones, any ones that were going against them." And I ended up taking it away, but it's like I said, and closing the portal. I told him, I said, you need to get some counseling, because this is going to be, this is going to be a long term for you. I said, you need to get some counseling. And if you ever get a feeling, he said, when I bought this house, sight unseen, he said, I had a bad feeling about it. I said, well, next time you get a bad feeling about it, I said, pass it by. Don't buy it.
man, that would might give people second thoughts about joining the military if they have to worry about people being cursing them with demons when they go to another country to fight a war.
Well, these guys couldn't win any other way, so they figured they'd do that.
Right. Wow. That is crazy. Now, I want to shift for the rest of the show to a little bit more positive aspects of this. Let's talk about angels and the hierarchy of positive beings. What types of beings are on the other end of this spectrum here?
Like I said, the Legion of Light are the archangels that are I would say, if they were here in the physical world, I would say they were the elite Navy SEALs team snipers, because they are the best of the best.
Right.
And they in turn trained the other archangels that became warrior angels and so on. But yeah, the guardian angels that watch over people, some people call them spirit guides, some people call them guardian angels. These are to help you guide, get your life on track and to help you with your everyday stuff. Unfortunately, they're not strong enough to fight off a demon. But on the other hand, they can use their abilities to get you where you need to go to get help. It's I've always accused Michael and the others and Gabe of utilizing the giant chessboard and moving people around. And they're like, yeah, it's kind of like that. We move the person where they need to go to get help, to find somebody to help them. He says that's what we do. We get a connection from their guide or guardian with something that's going on, and we get them the help they need. So they're great ones for facilitating help. And people often wonder how, like Michael or Gabe or one of the others can be in 1,000 places at the same time.
Mhm.
But people don't understand there is no distance on the other side. There is no distance. There is no quote unquote place. When I died and went to the other side, what my brain encountered was a cloud like area where you walked on the floor, but it was all clouds and the walls were clouds and all that sort of thing, because your physical brain would have a hard time figuring out what it really is. So your brain kind of puts it into a case where it understands it. Otherwise, you'd be crazy trying to figure it out. But so there is no time. There's no distance over on the other side. So, like I said, Gabe can be in 1,000 places at the same time because he can stand still and hear everyone. When I went to the other side, I could hear every single soul in existence that was white light soul. I could hear them, and it was like a murmur in the background. And then over all of that was the presence of God, the presence of this love and peace. And I heard him say, "It's okay. It's going to be okay. You have a lot of work for me to do. I have a lot of work for you to do. So you're going to do what you're supposed to be doing, and that's killing demons." And Michael said much the same thing. He says, "You don't understand. This is your job. And it's been your job in all these other lifetimes is to kill demons. That's what you're best at. That's what you're good at." And so you have that whole whole group over there that helps out. People don't understand. They think that God's just blowing them off, that he doesn't hear that we need help, but he
Mhm.
does. There are over 300,000 warrior angels reborn into the physical right now in existence. And there are over 3 million warrior angels walking among us in the world today, looking for negatives, trying to help as much as they can. And just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. I personally have I helped over 1,000 warrior angels understand who and what they are, so that I mentor them to try to get them to, you know, to increase their abilities, to understand what their job is in this lifetime, and get them on the right track. Because we need to build an army of light workers.
You know what? This is like I had a whole question about what you just said that I want to get into in a minute. I want to save that for the end, but I want to get your thoughts on: are there any, I guess you could say, neutral entities? You just mentioned the Watchers, how they're kind of
Yeah.
neutral. Are there any other neutral entities that are just here to kind of observe, or here to have fun, or along for the ride, or just trickster type entities?
Mostly the most common ones are the Watchers. They're neither good nor bad.
Hmm.
They take everything in. If there's something that they see that interferes with the balance between good and evil, then they will go to God and they will say, this is what I saw, this is what I observed, this is what's happening, and it's throwing off the balance. And then the um, there are your regular everyday, I call them common angels, and they also are watchers in a way, but they're watchers for the light. There there are ones that are, hmm, I have, Ariel has these beings that work for her, and one of them is called the Weasel. She calls him the Weasel because he can ferret out any he can find anything, any bad situation, any infiltrator, any sleeper cell. She utilizes him a lot because, believe it or not, there are people in the light realm who have a hidden agenda as well,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But there are some that still favor, Lucifer, and his ideas. So you're going to have that in anything. You're going to have those type of people. But those are they're pretty much, the Watchers are pretty much the only ones that are just kind of neutral. The rest all lean one way or another. There is, every now and then, everybody thinks that the demons all have nothing but dark in them, but that's not true. There's a little spark of light that is in each of the demons. And most of the time, when something triggers it, they will squish it down and suppress it. But once in a great while, you'll come across a demon who will let it grow. And one such entity I'll call Herb, because I'm not going to say his demonic name. But Herb came to me one day and said, I had removed him from a warehouse of a friend, and I kicked him out. And then when the friend moved, I said, okay, you can have the warehouse back again. No problem. But he came to me one day and he said, listen, I need your help. And I'm like, you look different. Instead of being black, he was kind of like shades of gray. I said, what have you done to yourself? he's like, I let the light grow. And I said, well, what do you want? Do you want to go back to the light? What do you want? He says, no, that's not what I want. He says, I want to be a bridge. I want to be a go-between between the living and the dark. I'm like, that's a noble cause, but I don't know how that's going to go over with Lucifer or the old demons. He's like, that's why I want I want Ariel to talk to Lucifer to see if he'll let me do that. And I'm like, okay. So there's a place that I just call it no man's land, where she can summon Lucifer and it's kind of an in-between world where
Mhm.
they can talk. So she summoned him, and he has no choice but to come. And so she told him about this, and Herb was there, and he says, "Well, I'll ask the old demons. If the old demons agree with it, then we'll allow it." So a couple days later, he he said to me, "It was approved." Herb came to me and said they approved it, so now I can help the humans. I'm like, good. From time to time, he'll come to me and let me know that that somebody needs help, and he will try to facilitate that as well. So
Wow.
he's still doing it. That's unusual
Huh.
though. It's rarity.
Yeah, that is very interesting. All right, now I want to go back to what you were saying about how they have angels incarnated as humans here, and then they have actual angels walking amongst us. Um, I've always had this feeling, and I was talking about this with actually a couple of other guests this week. Since an early age, is like this intuitive feeling that I would be alive during very interesting times, just to say the least. That
Yeah.
we would probably witness, me and anyone else alive during these days, things that most people have never seen in their lives and probably haven't for thousands of years, and we would be in a very prophetic time. And I've always just had this feeling. And now
It
with
is now.
everything happening now, it's like, wow, that feeling may have meant something.
It
And
actually started about 3 months ago. God came to me and he said, "Listen," he says, "this is over the next year, over the next year." He said,
mm,
"Things are going to be changing." He said, "For the better." He said, "The light workers are going to get stronger, and the world is going to see a substantial change for the better." And he said, "I am actually," about 3 weeks ago, he says, "I'm activating the warrior angels." So what he does is he activates their consciousness that's in the physical body so that the warrior angel that resides within them comes forward and basically wakes up and says, "Oh, I've been asleep. I need to get on this. I need to start taking care of business." So he did it about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so I've been getting a lot more calls from people wanting help with, they know that they have an angel inside of them and stuff like that. But it's supposed to be, the world's supposed to be getting better in the next year. It's supposed to be financial financial stability and increased harmony. The COVID thing will disappear, and they'll find more cures. And there's going to be a sign. He said, "Look to the stars." He says there's going to be in the next, he said it the other day, he said in the next 2 months, there's going to be a star that's going to cross over the earth. And it's much like the Star of Bethlehem. So he said, just be aware of that. It's a sign of good things coming. And then
wow.
somebody was telling me that this is supposed to be, that the Star of Bethlehem is supposed to reoccur this year. And I didn't know that. I'm like,
Huh.
okay. I said, okay.
Yeah.
God's up on that.
Right. Well, man, I really hope that that's right because we could use some better times up ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really interesting how you said there's all these angels that are incarnated as humans right now and that are kind of realizing that they have a job to do. And I've noticed a lot of people coming into, I guess you could say, their purpose and what they
Right.
what they desire most in life and what they feel like they should be doing, and it's all happening right now, and there's this
Yeah.
kind of quickening of
People are
events
getting,
occurring.
yeah, people are getting in contact with the spiritual side of themselves, and
Yes.
it's making them more aware. God called it. It's kind of sounds weird to me, but when my son was little, they had a movie by Jim Henson called uh, "The Dark Crystal,"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and
Love
they
that one.
talked about the Great Conjunction.
Hmm.
I mean, God used that term. He says this is the beginning of the Great Conjunction, the bringing together of a cosmic event which will help mankind. So I'm like, okay, people are going to think I'm crazy saying this. He's like, no. He said, people will understand. They're ready for it. They need it. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. I was like, I'm the type of person, if I see it, I'll wait and see it.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. People are definitely ready for it. I'm definitely ready for it. And June, I want to thank you so much again for coming on today. Awesome information, fantastic stuff. Before you go, let everyone know if they would like to find out more about you, get some of your books, your services, anything like that. What's the best way that they can do so?
They can go to my website, which is just recently revamped and is having a little bit of problems, but hopefully my web tech person got that fixed. MysticConnections.org, O-R-G, or demonseer.com. They both feed into the same website. You can find me on Facebook, June Lundgren or Demon Seer. You can find all my books on Amazon, either in print or in ebook form. And I will have, hopefully the end of December, the book will be out called Demon Seer, The Awakening. It talks about much of what we talked about today, and how these things are infiltrating the world, and how they're influencing people, governments, even religious things as well.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to have you back on when your book comes out. We'll discuss that one too.
Yep.
Awesome. June, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely talk again soon. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening, and we will talk again tomorrow.